So in almost every video I make, I always see in the comments, since I do read pretty much every one of them, somebody always asks me why I play more Black Ops 3 zombies or BO2, BO1, even World at War than Black Ops 4. In a lot of Q&A videos that I do, most of the gameplay is from older Call of Duty Zombies games. People always ask me why this is, and the reason for that simply is just because a lot of the questions are about the older CODs. Although you wouldn't be wrong in saying I definitely haven't played as much Black Ops 4 zombies than I did with BO3 or even Black Ops 2. So I thought, you know what, why not make a video, because it doesn't seem like I'm the only one. I've noticed for the general community on YouTube, and even looking in the comments, it seems like a lot of people are not playing Black Ops 4 Zombies. And if they are, there are nowhere near the amount of people playing as there were in previous years. I also want to say, if you've been subscribed to me for a long time, I'm sure you will know I rarely ever complain about anything. In fact, I'm not complaining, I'm just giving my thoughts as to why I don't think Black Ops 4 is as popular, or why as many people aren't playing it compared to other games. And also, maybe if a Treyarch developer sees this, because apparently their next game is going to be Black Ops 5, or whatever it is, I'm sure it's going to include zombies. Hopefully it could help improve their next game and just make sure the things that we have in zombies that aren't too great could be made better. So let's talk about this, let's discuss why this is, and see what went wrong with Black Ops 4 Zombies. What is the problem? Why don't people enjoy it as much? Let's take a look at where Treyarch went wrong. If we go all the way back to when zombies first started in World at War, 2008, as a hidden game mode after you complete the campaign, it was totally different to what it is now. Over the years, over the 10, 11 years that it's been out, it's evolved so much from being this simple little map that was Nakdo and Toten. It was just 4 random characters, a mystery box, a few weapons, nothing exotic besides from the ray gun, a couple of chalk drawings on the wall, and that was it. There was no Perca-Colas, no wonder weapon, I guess, if you don't want to include the ray gun. There was no storyline, no major Easter egg, no conversations between our characters. Zombies was very simple. It was its own unique hidden game mode, and it stayed that way for quite a long time, even as we got more DLC maps through World at War, going from Verrückt to Shinonuma and ending with Derice. It was still very simple. By that time we had a couple of wonder weapons, being the Winter's Howl and the Wunderwaffe. There were also our classic perks like Juggernog, Speed Cola, the original double tap, Quick Revive, traps, and a boss round, I guess you could call it, which were the Hellhounds. And on Derice there was a tiny Easter egg, which wasn't really major, but Derice was really the first map where the zombie storyline began. We learnt about Group 935, Maxis, Richthofen. By this time we had all of those characters that we know and love today in zombies. But with all of that, that is what I consider to be the classic zombies. The original style to me consists of our Ultimus characters, Richthofen, Takeo, Nikolai and Dempsey, the classic perks, an interesting storyline, and a main Easter egg. That for me is the recipe to a classic zombies map. And then we progress through the zombies mode onto Black Ops 1, where Treyarch seemed to follow the same recipe. We look at Kino der Toten, Ascension, Shangri-La, Call of the Dead, Moon. All of those maps again feel like the classic zombies that you would expect. Even though they did get more advanced, we had even more crazy wonder weapons, a variety of new perk machines such as PhD Flopper, new traps. The Easter egg and storyline became more interesting, introducing new characters such as Dr. Gersh, Brock and Gary, Yuri, the Pentagon Thief. And then of course at the end of Black Ops Zombies, we were left on this massive cliffhanger with Richthofen taking control of the zombies, and we were left wondering for a few years, what's gonna happen next? We couldn't wait for the continuation of zombies. That is when BO2 came around, and again, in my opinion, for the most part it followed the classic style that got us all addicted to this game mode in the first place. Yes, there were a few questionable things here and there, the main one being a new set of characters. We weren't really used to this, since we'd been playing with Ultimus for quite a long time, but we began in Transit with Misty, Malton, Stuhlinger and Russman. I don't think I need to tell you guys about Transit. We all know that it wasn't a great zombies map. In fact, BO2 didn't get on the best of starts. I remember when this first came out, a lot of people were saying, what is this? What have they done to zombies? They've ruined it. This map is terrible. Because Transit was so different to what we'd experienced before. It was a humongous map. There was a transport system. There was fog, the denizens, buildables, which was a first. The wonder weapon also had to be made instead of us getting it from the mystery box and then it would go and break. There was also multiple different areas, the banking system, the weapon saving slot, a new set of characters. But I think if you ask most people, is Transit still classic zombies? They would say yes, and I would agree. And this is an interesting point to come back to later, because even though it was so different from what we knew, I still consider Transit to be part of classic zombies. It still has that feel. Granted, not more than most maps, but there's still something special about it. And then of course we also had Die Rise, Buried, Mob of the Dead, and Origins. Just putting Origins aside for a second, but Mob of the Dead was one of my favourite zombies maps ever. Even still to this day, I consider it to be top 3 at least. At the time, I think it was so unique, and like Call of the Dead, is a one-off map where we play as a different set of characters, still intertwined with the same universe and same storyline, but we get to hear the story from a perspective of different characters. They had their own unique one, yet it's still tied in, and so again, Mob of the Dead feels like a classic zombies map. And like I said earlier, we had Die Rise and Buried, which follow the same route as Transit, but are a more improved map. And then Origins is a little bit of a weird one because we are in a totally different universe, a new timeline, a new set of characters, except from they are the old characters. It is Richtof and Takeo, Nikolai and Dempsey, just younger, but it still follows that same basic formula that makes Call of Duty Zombies, or at least Treyarch's. Perks, a mystery box, weapons on the wall, the classic characters that we fell in love with, although this time slightly different, but they still in a way feel the same. A good map and a new, unique, interesting Easter egg and storyline that still follows the original. Again, like I said, in a way, because Origins was a little bit weird. It follows a new timeline, but the original story is still intertwined. Without it, Origins wouldn't exist. So BO2 as a whole was a great experience. A lot of people consider this to be their favourite. Transit maybe was the one-off, but overall the rest were fantastic. And then we move on to Black Ops 3 Zombies, which for me is the best zombies game yet. This was the point when zombies was at its biggest. Every zombies YouTuber was blowing up, doing live streams for hours and hours, just replaying these maps, doing the Easter eggs. Hundreds of thousands of people watching. Black Ops 3 Zombies was just on a totally different scale to anything we'd seen before. Of course, we started off with The Giants, which was a remake of one of the old classics. We had Shadows of Evil, which for a lot of people at first hated this map. I was the same. It was kind of like Transit, where we started off as a new set of characters. We had a few different things, but then also like Mob and Call of the Dead, it intertwined with the main story. I really didn't like this map at first, but now over time I've grown to appreciate it and actually think it's awesome. But yet it still had, and I hate to keep saying it, but it had that classic zombies feel. Perks, mystery box, everything that we know was there. Although the one major thing that we saw as a consistency through BO3 was the aliens. That was what we knew them as at first. When we saw them in the trailer, we were like, what? Zombies as aliens now? Okay. It was definitely difficult to accept. I remember a lot of people saying, what has zombies turned into? But as we go through the storyline, through Dreisendrache, because they were still involved there, and then to Gorod, Zetsubo no Shima, and Revelations, we know that the Apothicons, and specifically the Shadow Man and Dr. Monte, have been involved in our zombie storyline since the beginning. So that made it a little bit easier to swallow. Even though we couldn't see them, they were existing in our timeline. And so eventually we were like, okay, I can accept this. It's a little bit far-fetched or different, I guess. But these alien creatures weren't too bad, and they were actually something different. They did give this zombies game a different feel, and obviously it worked because, like I said, BO3 Zombies is considered one of the best, so clearly they did something right. And a lot of these maps, especially Dreisen, which I think is the best one we've ever had, a lot of people love Gorod, Zetsubo no Shima. It seems like they always have that one map that's maybe not too great, like Transit in BO2. A lot of people consider Shangri-La in BO1. World was a bit different, but Zetsubo was okay. And then we had Revelations, which again left us on a giant cliffhanger, but BO3 Zombies overall, to me and a lot of other people, it was the biggest. This was when it had the most viewers, the best zombies maps, the best Easter egg storyline. This was when boss fights was introduced. Black Ops 3 Zombies had a lot of new features. Remember, this was the first time we also had proper weapon customization. It wasn't too complicated. You could add an attachment or a fast mag. That was pretty much the only thing we could customize, but it was a new feature. We'd never had that before. There was the ranking up system, which felt really good to do. It felt like you'd achieve something. And then there was Monte's Gobblegums. It was really the first time microtransactions had been introduced to zombies. At this point in time, most games were doing it, but with Monte's Gobblegums, it actually felt like you got something out of them. Since Dr. Monte was a character in our storyline, it felt like it was actually part of the game, and of course you didn't have to buy them if you didn't want to. It didn't feel forced, but they actually felt useful. And so even though Black Ops 3 kind of changed the formula of zombies, it still had that, in quotation marks, classic feel with everything, but there were a lot of new features, from weapon customization to boss battles, alien creatures, gobblegums, but it still had that feeling of the zombies we know and love. And I'm going to say it, this was the peak of zombies, and we all know with a peak there's usually a downfall, and that seems to be Black Ops 4. If you just take a look at the numbers, the interest, it's clear to see that Black Ops 4 Zombies isn't as popular as previous game modes. Somewhere along the line, something has gone wrong with zombies, and I will even say it myself. It is definitely not the best zombies game we've seen. I don't think it's as good as Black Ops 3. In fact, it's definitely not. Then again, it would be hard to live up to that game. I don't think it's as good as BO2 Zombies, even BO1 Zombies. In fact, maybe just a bit better than World at War. But coming from someone who's played since pretty much the beginning, the end of World at War, start of BO1, I don't think it's as good as those games. But the question is, why? If I had to round everything up and just put it into a few words, I would say it doesn't feel like classic zombies. That's something I've been saying over and over again throughout this video. As long as it feels like the classic zombies, what made it in the beginning, what we all fell in love with, I think whatever map it is, whatever feature they add, we'll fall in love with it. But Black Ops 4 Zombies doesn't feel like that for some reason. And I think there are a ton of reasons as to why this is. The main one for me has to be the story. All throughout Zombies we have been following the exact same story for 10 years now. Imagine having this same storyline, this same set of characters, following their journey since 2008, and then all of a sudden we get introduced to a whole new one. You could imagine a lot of people aren't going to take kindly to that. For example, just say you've been watching a TV show for 10 years, and then maybe a new director comes along, changes the whole cast, changes the whole formula, everything that you fell in love with. Yeah, you're probably not going to watch it anymore. And so with BO4 Zombies, we now have a whole new storyline, which is Chaos, a new set of characters, Scarlet, Diego, Bruno and Shaw, and the whole origins of that story that we fell in love with in the ether, which was the involvement of the Nazis, Group 935, Element 115, this was all gone. Now we were introduced to this cult, this order. 115 was replaced by Prime Materia, and the storyline, instead of us going on this magical journey, is now very basic. You have to admit, the Chaos storyline compared to the Ether one is very straightforward. When Ether first began in World at War, even at the very beginning, it was so interesting. We learned about all of these groups, such as, like I said, 935, and then Maxis, Richtofen's involvement with Samantha, this little girl that he'd been experimenting on, and then these random characters, Takeo, Nikolai and Dempsey, that he'd captured and was using for experimentation. We learned about him making his own wonder weapons, and then him and Maxis creating the teleporters, Groff and Richtofen, or Schuster and Richtofen, teleporting to the moon, and then Richtofen and Maxis teleporting Samantha's dog, creating the Hellhounds. All of this stuff pretty much began at the start of Zombies, and then as we went on it got even more interesting. But if we look at the Chaos story, the first map we have is 9 and Voyage of Despair, and we look at the storyline on those maps, they're extremely basic. There's no room for interpretation, there's no room for guessing. It pretty much tells us exactly what we're doing. The storyline is very straightforward. It was given to us. It doesn't feel very magical, although it revolves around mythology. I don't know, it just feels very like it could happen, like it was possible. With the Ether story, it feels totally out of this world, Whereas with the Chaos one, it's like, yeah, so there are these characters, this cult. I don't know how to explain it. I guess it's just a bit boring. If you're starting off a new story, you need to get the players interested straight away. It's like if you're reading a book, or going back to the example earlier, watching a television program or a movie, you need to be intrigued in the first 10-20 minutes, otherwise you'll probably turn it off. And that's kind of what it was for Chaos. It didn't get interesting until our latest map, Ancient Evil, and I think a lot of players were just thrown off from the beginning. I'm not saying that the maps were bad or the gameplay was bad, but the storyline wasn't interesting. There was no reason, unless you were in love with zombies, but if you weren't, if you were a new player, probably even I wouldn't be interested. I'd be thinking, I've played it, I don't have a reason to play it again. So I think the storyline, at the beginning at least, 9, Voyage of Despair and Dead of the Night, wasn't good enough to make people interested. As I said, with our latest map, Ancient Evil, things have definitely gotten a lot better, and I've seen in the comments a lot of people saying they are now interested in the Chaos story, where it was revealed to us that the Oracle is Medusa. We are left wondering if Alistair's ever going to return. We see Scarlet is either knocked out or killed, so with her we're wondering what's going to happen. We've been left on a big cliffhanger, and actually I can't wait to see what's going to happen next, but that should have happened, or interesting stuff like this should have gone down from the start. Unfortunately it didn't. So I think the story is a massive problem with Black Ops 4 Zombies. That is the Chaos story. They also have the Ether story going on at the same time, and whilst it's still got that interesting feel, there's also a problem with this. First off, I think it's the fact that both Ether maps are remakes of ones we've had before, so it feels like there's nothing fresh and new for us to get involved in as of yet for Ether. Both Classified and Blood of the Dead we've seen before, just with a few changes. But for someone who's been watching for such a long time, this doesn't really bother me. And we do have DLC 3 and 4 to look forward to. They are going to be Ether maps, so I can't wait to see what's going to happen. But I do think it was a problem that we have two storylines going on in one game. It kind of feels like you have to choose which one you have to follow, because the Ether storyline is so big and complex, especially if you don't really know what's going on. It takes a lot of time to stay up to date with everything. And then we also have another storyline going on with Chaos, and so it kind of just feels like a mess. I know a lot of people have said, why didn't they just end Ether first and then go on to a new storyline, which I can kind of agree with, but at the same time, I don't want Ether to end, so no. But just having two storylines, it just feels a bit weird. For example, with DLC 1 and 2, we had Chaos maps, and then we're suddenly just left on a cliffhanger, and we're now going over to DLC 3 and 4, which are Ether maps. Like, it just would have felt so much better and smoother if we could just go through one whole game with one storyline. So I think the story is a massive reason why people aren't playing Black Ops 4 Zombies as much. I don't think it's really to do with the Ether story, but the Chaos story just doesn't have as much interest, and because it got off on such a bad start in my opinion, a lot of people just stopped playing it straight away and haven't seen how good it's gotten towards the end. But of course there's plenty of other reasons. As I said earlier, that formula that creates zombies, being the characters, perks, mystery box, and storyline, they've changed a lot of that with BO4. First off, the perks. Our classic perks that we fell in love with are not here. Treyarch, we love Juggernog. If you ask anyone if they've ever heard of Juggernog, most people who actually haven't played Zombies or aren't too familiar with it will say, yeah, that's from that game. These perks, Speed Cola, Double Tap Quick Revive, they're famous. People know what these are. They are associated to Zombies only. They are classics. They've been in since the beginning, and then to just take something out that people love and create this whole new system, it doesn't work. The new perk system is horrible anyway. Even if it was good and it worked, it wouldn't change my mind on this, but it doesn't. I don't like it. I half the time find myself not even buying perks anymore just because they don't feel good. Because of the new 4-hit down system, there's no Juggernog replacement. I just feel the whole perk system in BO4 Zombies, they've got totally wrong. They shouldn't have removed it, and what they should have done is what they've been doing all along, is add new perks. Keep the perk machines there. They feel like their own unique thing. Now in BO4, we have a creator class system where we can select 4 different perks that we want in the game. There are loads of different options, like Dying Wish, Stone Cold Stronghold, a Deadshot Dealer, Zomshell, but if you ask people what these are and what they do, granted, most people won't know. It's just complicated, it's annoying, some of them don't feel useful, they don't feel unique as they did before. They've taken away a feature that was a massive part of zombies. Without the perks, it just doesn't feel the same. Another thing I have to say, even before Black Ops 4 was released, when I first saw gameplay, the first thing I said on Twitter was the HUD looks terrible. It takes away the immersion from zombies. Just having this massive HUD at the bottom of the screen, it's ugly. If we go back to a lot of our older maps, it was simple, and on a lot of them, they had a unique HUD, like on Buried or Mob of the Dead. But on Black Ops 4 Zombies, it's all the same, and it's ugly. It's just in the middle of the screen. Just take it away, we don't need it. Cram everything down the corner, and a lot of things there are just unnecessary. So the HUD's horrible, and also hit markers in zombies, really? We've never had that before. It's never been asked for. Why are there hit markers in zombies? Again, it's just part of the immersion and it takes it away. Also, the elixirs feel, for me, absolutely useless. I never want to buy them. I don't want to use them in game. In fact, I rarely do. Actually, even though they're on the screen for you to clearly see on your HUD, it's massive, you can't miss it. Half the time, I forget they're even there. I don't know how that happens. You don't have to go and get them from a machine like you did with Monte's Gobble, but half the time I forget they're even there, and they just don't feel like they're part of the game. Monte's Gobble felt useful. It felt like, you know, they could actually help you, and also it feels like they were part of the map, whereas the elixirs just feel like they're placed there. You know what? Activision are going to give you microtransactions. Here, use them, go buy more, they're straight in your face. Take them out. So the elixirs are nowhere near what the Gobblegums were. They just feel stupid. They don't fit in with the storyline. They don't make sense. And also the elixirs were made by Shaw in the Chaos storyline. We've been told that Chaos is not connected to the Ether, yet we have elixirs in the Ether story. It's the same with the perks. And so those few points for me, the perks, the story, the HUD, the hit markers, the elixirs, take away from what made zombies. The classic feel just isn't there in Black Ops 4. They changed too much. But that's not it though. The fact that there was no hype for DLC 1, which if you don't know, I wouldn't be surprised, was Dead of the Night. There was absolutely no marketing for it, no trailer, hardly anyone knew it was going to release. I think they said like a day before that it was coming out, or maybe it was leaks that actually told us that, I'm not too sure, but this was the first time I can ever remember them releasing a zombies map with no marketing. It was a terrible decision, and for that reason the map failed. It was pretty much doomed to fail from the beginning because of Treyarch or Activision, whoever's decision that was, but that was a massive mistake. In a lot of the Chaos maps, whether it's 9, Voyage, Dead of the Night, or Ancient Evil, a lot of the bosses are reused. We see a lot of them just come back over and over again. Some of them are super annoying, and then they just reuse them over and over again in different maps. For me, this wasn't too much of a problem, but if you haven't seen on YouTube, a lot of people have complained of the fact that there are no updates for BO4 Zombies. Now, like I said earlier, Zombies has always been this game mode on the side. It's been a smaller thing. It's never been ahead of multiplayer or campaign, or in this case Blackout. It's always been a lot smaller, but the development team for it has gotten a lot bigger over the years, and I will admit it does seem like the zombies mode is getting left out compared to the other two. But that's not something personally I'd complain about, because that's how it's always been, and I don't mind it being just, you know, a smaller thing. But I will complain when promises are made of game modes such as factions, and in fact we don't even really know what this is, but we were told it's going to be in the game pretty much from the beginning, and you know, how many months is it later? Is it like 9 months, and factions still isn't in the game? And then of course I can't continue without talking about blue screens. I can say thankfully I've never experienced this problem, but as I'm sure you will know, in many cases whilst trying to do the main Easter egg, or even just playing in general, whether it's going to high rounds, in the earlier days of Black Ops 4 Zombies, and even months after its release, people would get blue screens for absolutely nothing if you just played too long. Or imagine getting to the end of a Easter egg, playing for hours, doing all this hard work, and then suddenly you'll gain blue screens. That was a massive issue with BO4 Zombies. However, even with all of that, there are a few good things. I do think the special weapons are a really good idea, whether it's the flamethrower or the Ragnaroks, the death machine, the katana. I actually really like the idea of the special weapons. Ever since Origins, everyone had been wanting to use Takio's katana, so the fact that we can actually use that now, I really like that. And then with the Chaos story, we have the hammer, the scepter, the Viper and Dragon, or the chakrams. Also the armory or the weapon customization, I think is pretty good. It's a little bit more complicated than it was in BO3. I don't know if it's quite an upgrade, but they have added camos, which gives you a reason to play, go in game, get headshots, earn camos for your weapons. And I believe this could also transfer into Blackout, which does give people a reason to play zombies. So I do like that. And the fact that you could also choose a starting weapon and a piece of equipment. Again, little bits of customization like that, I actually like. They are things that people have been asking for a long time. I also want to say, and I don't know how many people would agree, but I do like the idea of mutations. Being able to customize our own zombies game, so you can change the starting round, whether or not you want traps on, you can decide if it's headshots only, whether the power's on, the mystery box is there, wall weapons, power-ups, the pack-a-punch, the health of the zombies, how many downs you are allowed, you can change your points. I actually do like that feature. It's especially helpful when doing YouTube videos. And then also the gauntlets, even though I don't do them myself, it gives people a challenge, a reason to play zombies. I do think it's like a one-off thing, so once you've done it, you don't really need to do it again. You don't want to, but they are there. And then of course we have the game mode rush. Yeah, not really probably not the best game mode we've had, but again, it's there, they've put it in the game, it is content. But even though it's not popular, it is there if you want to play it. And you know what, I actually think it's more the layout of the menu. If you don't know this extra game mode exists, because of the layout and how they've done it in BO4, it is very easy to miss and just forget that it exists. I will also say, I think a massive reason as to why there aren't as many players on BO4 zombies compared to previous games is just simply down to exhaustion. We've continuously had zombies so much over the past few years, with Exo zombies, Infinite Warfare zombies, World War II zombies, we then also had Extinction, but over the past few years we haven't had a break from it, which we usually have. Normally it's just Treyarch that develops it, and then the other companies make their own game mode like Extinction or Spec Ops, which is a reason why I'm actually quite glad that zombies isn't returning this year in Modern Warfare. I do think we need a break because I do think zombies has been exhausted over the past few years. When you have something so much, which kind of explains Call of Duty, we have it every year, but maybe taking a break is what we need. Maybe people in Black Ops 4 just got a little bit tired of having so much zombies. This was really the first time we've gone from a Treyarch game to another Treyarch game, being BO3 to BO4, without having a break in between. Since then we've had Infinite Warfare zombies and World War II zombies in between, and then went straight on to BO4. And so, rounding it up, overall, if we take all of this together, I think we can say the reason why people don't play Black Ops 4 Zombies is because that classic feel of what made it so good, of what people fell in love with, the storyline, our characters, and then features such as the perks aren't there. It seems like Treyarch have somehow managed to take away that classic feeling of zombies. It doesn't really feel like zombies. I also think the graphics are a bit of a downgrade from BO3's for some reason. I mean, I don't know how that happens. Feels a little bit more cartoonish. And also, come on guys, the main menu for zombies kind of sucks. We go from Black Ops 3, which was the crew sitting in a forest, and then in Black Ops 2 we could go around the world and pick which zombies map, and then BO1's was definitely the best, where we sat in the chair, but Black Ops 4's just feels a bit plain. So yeah, there we go. That is why I think people aren't playing BO4 Zombies as much as previous games. I just think they've changed the formula too much. The classic zombies feeling that we all fell in love with from World at War to BO3, it doesn't feel like it's there in Black Ops 4. The perks, the storyline, characters, and then things such as the HUD, the hit markers, the gobble gums, even things as small as that make a massive difference, especially on a game mode like this that really is special to a lot of people. That feeling of what made zombies so special just isn't really there in Black Ops 4. There are things you can point out, and then also it's like there are reasons that I just can't explain. There's just besides from those things that I've said, there's just something about it that just feels, I don't know, off, different. So, I don't know, that feeling could return with DLC 3 and 4. I'm super excited to see where we're going to go, but that is it. Let me know your thoughts down below. Do you enjoy Black Ops 4 Zombies as much? What do you think is missing, if anything, or do you love it? I'm not saying it's bad, I still enjoy it. I absolutely love zombies, but there's just something about this game that's not quite as enjoyable at the moment as previous ones. So there we go. Drop a like rating if you have enjoyed. Make sure you are subscribed to stay up to date with the latest videos on the channel. Thank you guys for watching, and until next time, goodbye.